Hi guys, welcome back to day 13 of Mr. Fell's Sketching and Drawing Challenge. Today I thought we'd do something different, something we've not done before. So today's challenge is to do an orthographic sketch or drawing of a chair, depending on the instruments you might have. So it might become a bit more sketchy if you've not got a ruler and things. If you've got a ruler, it'll probably become a bit more technical. But we'll just see how we get on with that. So I'm starting off today with a little isometric of a chair, keeping it as a very basic chair, straight legs and things like that. I've put some dimensions on there, hopefully you can see those, just to give me an idea. I'm going to start off using a ruler to begin with, just to get the right proportions and things. So the idea here is to draw this at a scale of 1 to 10. So I put some dimensions on this chair, so overall hopefully you can see it's 800 millimeters tall, it's 400 millimeters wide, it's 400 millimeters up to the chair's 300 millimeters deep. So the idea is that I'm going to use a scale to fit, so these are the life size sizes, dimensions for this chair. I need to convert those sizes to something that's going to fit on my page quite nicely. So I think probably a scale of 1 to 10 is going to sit on my page quite nicely. So at a scale of 1 to 10, this is 800. I'm just going to divide that by 10, so I'm going to be 80 millimeters, so that's 8 centimeters tall. I think that's going to fit my page quite nicely. So just thought I'd use that as a little opportunity to talk to you a bit about scale. Could use a different scale if I had a bigger sheet of paper. Obviously I want to fit these 3 drawings on. I'm going to want to keep them relatively small, depending on the building or the object that you're going to be drawing. If you're going to be drawing a building, obviously the scale is going to be much bigger. Probably going to be looking at a scale of 1 to 100 or something like that. But for furniture and things like that, 1 to 5, 1 to 10. Obviously scales work the other way around as well. Say I had a very small component on this chair, and I wanted to show it enlarged. I can maybe do it at a scale of 2 to 1. Or 5 to 1, so that'd make it 5 times bigger. But at the moment we're trying to reduce our dimensions of this chair to something that fits on the page, so we're going to use a scale of 1 to 10. So we're going to get on with this orthographic straight away. Don't worry if you don't have an isometric, you can just work along with me and draw the orthographic. But if you do have or you have went ahead and drawn out an isometric chair, you can use your own sizes from there. Right guys, so we'll just start on this. So to begin with, I'm just going to give myself a baseline, something I can work from. Just going to make everything nice and light just now, nice like construction lines. So this is going to be the level that what I'm going to end up having is a front elevation of my chair. I'm going to have a plan up here, and I'm going to have an end elevation across here. So this view here, if I was standing here looking across, this is going to be my front view. This would be my end elevation, and as I'm looking down on here, that's going to be my plan view. Okay, so I like to start, depending on what object I'm drawing, I'm going to start with the view that I get the most information from, so that I get the best idea for the shape of whatever it may be that I'm drawing. So for the chair, I think the best view to start with is actually the side view or the end elevation. So I'm going to start with my side view across here. I say I get the most information from there. It's the view that I can actually see that it's a seat, that there's a flat bit here and things like that. Obviously if it's a plan looking down, I'm just going to end up with what's going to look like a square. And my front elevation, I can't quite tell that that's a chair yet, but the side elevation or the end elevation, I can definitely tell that it's a chair. So I can get a lot of information from there, project my lines across and work it out from there. So I'll just go ahead and draw that side elevation. So, or the end elevation I should call it. So on my little isometric here, it's 800 millimeters tall, so not quite a meter tall. I want to convert that to a scale of 1 to 10, so I'm going to divide that by 10. It gives me a size of 80 millimeters. So I'm just going to measure up here. Obviously, if we were doing this in the class, might be doing it with drawing boards and things like that. We're just trying to make do with the tools that we've got. So I've got a straight edge here. I'm measuring up here 80 millimeters. I'm going to put a little dot on my line at 80 millimeters because I've went a bit too far. The overall width, so I'm imagining I'm standing here looking at this side of the chair. The overall width of this chair is 300 millimeters. So I'm just going to go across 300 millimeters. So I'm putting 0 right in the line there. 300, I actually think I've made a mistake there. It says 300, it says 300 for my seat here. The seat back here is 50. So I'm going to make it 350 wide. Give me slightly better proportions. Now, because I've got a straight line here, I've tried to make it parallel to the edge of my paper. Just going to try and make my next line parallel to that. I'm just going to put the top in nice and light just now. So I've got the overall box, I suppose, that this chair would sit in. Now, my seat height is 400 millimeters up, so I'm going to go up 40 now. So dividing that by 10, so I'm putting 0 on the bottom on my baseline there. Put a little dot at 40, and then rotate my ruler so I'm going straight across here. My thickness for the back bit here is 50, so divide that by 10 and I'm going to get 5, so I'm just going to put a little dot there and draw another line. Trying to keep all my lines nice and parallel. I know I've got the thickness for my seat to put in, so I was just making all the thicknesses 50 just to keep things nice and simple. Now, if you've not got a ruler, hopefully you can just go through the same process, just to take a best guess at the dimensions. So that would be my side view, more or less. The next view I want to put in is going to be the front elevation. So if I was standing here, looking at this chair, so I can take a lot of the information that I've got from my end elevation and project it across now. So I'm just going to put a side in. So I imagine I'm standing here, so I'm going to put the side of the chair in just as a starting point. I'm going to want that about here. I'm just going to project a line across from the top now. That will give me my height. So obviously this chair is the same height from the front as it is from the side, and that's the thing about an orthographic. All of the 3 views that we're going to do are all related. So the height of a front elevation is exactly the same as the height as our end elevation. So we just project those lines across. The seat will be in exactly the same position, but this time we're seeing it from the front, so I'm just projecting that height across. Now the one thing I need to do is put a width on. Obviously I can't see the width, this width on this view. So I'm looking back to my drawing and I've said it's 400 wide. So on my scale of 1 to 10 orthographic, it's going to be 40 millimeters wide. And I'm just going to send that line up to the top. And the last thing I need to do on here is put my legs in. So we were making those 5 millimeters wide. So I'm just going to fold in those outlines now just so you can see them a bit better. You can use a ruler for this, or you can freehand it, give it a little bit more of a sketchy look. So I've got my end elevation, my front elevation. Now I shouldn't have to take any more sizes from my isometric now. I should actually have all the sizes that I need to finish off this sketchy orthographic with a plan view. So obviously looking down on top of this chair now, it's going to be exactly the same width as my front elevation, so I can use those lines. So I'm just going to project those lines up. I should really use my ruler for this, seeing as I have one. Now there's a little trick we can use here called a bounce line, which allows us to take the sizes off of the end elevation and bounce them onto our plan view. So what I'm going to do, I'm looking at the plan, so I'm imagining I'm flying above this chair now, looking down on top of it. I'm just going to draw on this line, so that would go straight across here, get a little bit higher up. Now I'm just going to bring this line across a little bit to this point here. Now at this point, so where this line has been projected up and meets this line, I'm going to sketch in a 45-degree line. Now, if you've got protractors and things, great. You could use a protractor and get bang on. I'm just going to guesstimate it. So roughly 45 degrees. Now that acts as a bounce line, so this is quite interesting. So if I follow this line for the back of the chair up, and where it meets the bounce line here, in fact we'll do it for this line, so where this line meets the bounce line, we're going to bounce it across, like so, and that's going to form the back bit of our plan of this chair. We'll follow this one up. So that's this line here. Follow that up where it meets the bounce line. We're going to bounce that across. And that's going to be the plan of that section of our chair. Obviously we're just going to have straight sides. There's a couple of other things that we would want to put on this as a sort of sketch orthographic, is what we'd call the hidden detail lines. So there's some things on this chair that we should show, although in certain views we wouldn't be able to see those things. So one of the things on the front elevation we would see is where this chair actually comes all the way to the edge. So we would show that as a dotted line across here. And the dotted line just shows that it's, we call it a hidden detail line. And actually we would show that coming across here as well, and across this line. So that's a dashed line across here. We would see a little bit of hidden detail on the plan view as well. So where our legs are, so I'm just going to project these lines up, where our legs are, we would show that as a dotted line as well. So same again on this side, just project that line up. And we just project that up to this point as well. And that would be the back two legs. So that's what we would call hidden detail. We wouldn't actually see these legs through the chair, but we would want to show that for like manufacturing purposes. So I've got my outlined orthographic in. Some other things, important details that we need to add to this is dimensions. So there's a bit of a trick to adding dimensions to things. So the idea is that your dimensions should always be underlined. From say I'm wanting to dimension how wide the back of the chair is here, or how wide the chair is, I would want to have leader lines that come from that corner but do not actually touch the corner. So there's a little gap in between the corner and where my leader line starts. So I'm just going to put my leader line up like that. So that's my leader lines, that's my dimension line. Arrows, there's actually a British standard, believe it or not, about how your arrows should look. So your arrows should just be nice and thin arrows, not big wide things. So little thin arrows. As I said before, your number or the dimension should always be on top of the line. So I'm just looking at my size here, so it should be 400 millimeters across. So, and again, when I'm putting the dimensions on, putting the dimensions on of the real object and not the size of the object on this page. Obviously this is 40 millimeters across. If I handed that over to a manufacturer, I'm going to get a tiny little chair. I want the manufacturer to make me a chair that's the full size. So this is 400 millimeters across. Again, so we'll do one for the side. So it's 800 tall. So a leader line coming out, leader line coming out. Nice straight line between the two leader lines. Now when it comes to the sides, we just remember that we always want the number to be underlined. What side do we put it on? Well, on the sides you've got to think about rotating the dimension line clockwise, and if once we've rotated it clockwise, is your number underlined? If so, you put it in the right place. So for here, I would want to put my dimension line here, so that if we took the dimension line and the number, rotated it, my 800 would be underlined. So I'm just going to put a few more dimensions on here. It's 400 millimeters up to the seat. What else could I put in? Show the width of the leg. So it's a slightly, if I've not got enough room, it's a slightly different dimension style to use. And my dimension would go in the middle there. We'll show the width of this. So this dimension. It was going to be 350. And I'll show the dimension of this leg as well. So my leader lines, two dimension lines, but in the middle. And I think I'll leave it at that. I could show the dimension of that one here. So just to finish this off, I'd want to name the views as well. So when we're naming the views, it's important if you set up a style that you consistently use that style. So by that, if I like to use capital letters, so I like to name my views in capital letters, but if I named one in capital letters and then decided to name this one with a capital letter and the rest lowercase, that would be deemed incorrect. So once you set up, either use capital letters or capitals and then lowercase, and then just use that consistently throughout your labeling. As I say, I quite like using capital letters, so I just use capital letters throughout. So that's going to be my plan view, that's going to be my end elevation. And it's just a case of trying to keep all your lettering nice and neat as well. And that's my front elevation. You want your labelling to be below any dimensioning that you've got. Other little things that I could put in this, it depends. This is just a quick sort of introduction to orthographic sort of sketching and drawing. But if I was wanting to make this a sort of formal technical drawing, I'd also want to put in a title box, see what scale it was. This has been done quite sketchy, so I wouldn't, perhaps, I'd perhaps be putting something on this saying, do not use for scale. But we'll go through the process as if it was a real technical drawing. So I'm just going to give myself a little title box in the corner here. So you'd want to have your name in there. Title of the drawing. As I said, if this was a sort of formal technical drawing, we'd want to show what the scale was. And it's a 1 to 10 scale. And the date is the 24th of April. So that would be it, guys. That's your challenge. An orthographic drawing of a chair. I don't mind if you just go ahead and use a very simple chair, or if you will want to do a bit of extra challenge, maybe use a chair that's in your house. Try and create the isometric of it. Add in the dimensions, so you could even measure the chair in your house and try and draw an orthographic of the chair that's in your house. Good luck, guys. Hope to see what you've been up to very soon. All the best. Cheerio. Bye-bye.